Hey, I drew those crazy sausages and some plants to improve my art in terms of construction and learning about texture. But one step after another, the curriculum. Currently, I am learning how to draw and paint by following this free art curriculum by Modern Day James, found on Reddit. I'm now in the 14th week and still doing my stuff in Term 1, Unit 2, which is Basic Perspective. Here we work with the free learning resource Draw a Box, a website that guides us through several lessons combined with some challenges. In my last video, I completed the first challenge of this unit, the 250 box challenge. Check this video out if you're just starting out with art. As you might know, all the stuff I create in this unit is made with paper and pen. It's recommended to avoid electronic devices like the iPad. Let's go through all lessons and challenges I faced. The lessons. The first task was to draw organic arrows, which means you're drawing a curve on the page and another curve above that. One end should be smaller, so it will look far away, and the other one closer. You should not be afraid of overlapping. When something is overlapping on there or there is a curve, you add some line weight and maybe some hatching lines. I first had a tough time doing this, and I did a lot of pages instead of the necessary two to really make sure I get this in my head. I ended up with 6 pages. Yeah, you see a lot of mistakes there, but I keep going, and in the end I kind of get it. This is really useful later for leaves or if you draw stuff like that. Now we are preparing these sausages we saw in the intro of this video. We are tackling organic forms with contour lines, which means we start with the sausage and then we add a flow line and some ellipses. The Farah ellipses are turned more to the viewer and also indicate the 3D form. Of course, normally you don't have the X-ray view. So to indicate this, you can also draw these half ellipses. Also really useful when you draw clothing on people. For example, when you draw a top, a wearers, then these curves are really useful. It was the task to draw one page of sausages with the half ellipse and the other one with the full ellipses. So I did. Now we're heading to a really tough one, texture analysis. I should analyze 3 textures, so look at a reference like this fried chicken and then try to reproduce, not only copy, and understand the texture it has. A texture is something that you can imagine is wrapping around a 3D form. So this is like a cylinder or cone form, and this fried stuff is wrapping around. So it's in terms of texture not the task to get it like in 3D perspective fried, because for that it's way too detailed, but to understand the big bumps, small ones, the riffles. So first there comes the analysis. You try to reproduce it based on the stuff you found out. And then you draw this 3 windows on the page. The first one is just a section you really copy. The next one is what you find out in your study. Maybe some patterns or other details that are coming again and again and stuff like this. And then in the last window you try to reproduce it by beginning with a black rectangle, and in the end there is a white one. And you start with a lot of detail and a lot of shadows, and then you don't draw the forms, you just draw the shadows, the texture cast on the surface. And the more you go to the right, the less detail you use. Imagine this is full of light and this is deep shadow. Man, I was afraid of this task. let's dive into it and see if I at least come close to this example homework. This looks all like really crappy. It's hard to see what it's actually meant to be. It stands here on the left like this should be skin, this is like bread, and this crumbled paper. But yeah, I don't think it is clearly visible what this really is if I didn't have it wrote down, but it's really not important here. Mostly it's just for rewiring your brain and see all the details your brain normally ignores. As we later come to the sausages of the intro, and applying this to a 3D shape, it will get gradually easier. So that's really okay for now. And there we are, sausage time, dissections. Now remember the sausages we draw earlier? Now we're redoing it, giving them a little indication of perspective, and then imagine of dissect this, like cutting through. Then it was the task to look at many different textures, and on each section there should be another texture. Like here this pure similar thing, or in the inside something from meat or a fruit. What this here is metallic stuff. There you really go into practice, and you see also here, like from the texture analysis, you start on the edge with more darker and more detailed stuff, and later towards the middle it gets lighter and lighter until in the middle there's actually nothing, but the indication of the texture is enough to let your brain assume there's a whole texture around it. And this we're going to practice. Yeah, so first we're drawing the action line, the sausage around it, and then there come the ellipses in different angles to indicate the 3D form. Then I'm adding a little bit line weight to let it be clear where the form actually ends, and then I'm starting to add the texture. I think what I'm currently drawing was the redoing of the red texture, and then we go back to it at a way later point. I'm adding little bumps here and there, and this thing is actually crab skin. I also did corn or broccoli, red cabbage, bark, and I think it slowly starts to look like something. Here you see the result of the first page. You see in the down left a mud pool, we see agave skin, a field of grass, broken chalk block, orange skin, stuff like that. And on the second page we have the sausages from the video, the bread section, corn, broccoli, like I told you before. And here's the direct comparison to the texture analysis before, where I think many elements of the texture I tried there look kind of the same, but more dense or less dense. So yeah, that's kind of a little improvement here, I think, at least in understanding the concept and how to approach it. We're moving forward towards construction. As you can see, we're building up simple forms. Therefore was the sausage exercise, slowly adding complexity. So you start with the 3D form and the indication of volume and perspective, and later you add the texture. So the strange exercise before now makes a little bit more sense. If we move on to the homework here, we're still preparing this. So we're not straight going to plants or mushrooms. Now we try ourselves at form intersections, which means imagine of 3D forms which are different, like a cylinder, a cone, or a cube, are overlapping. And then you should draw this line where they actually intersect, where they touch. And man, I had a really tough time to imagine that and to get it in my head. Of course, Drawbox also released a video to follow that exercise, but I helped myself with opening Blender and placed different forms, but here you see 2 cubes and I rotated them, I scaled them, and I tried different things. So that helped me to get a rough idea how they actually intersect and where this line of touch is and how to actually draw it. At the end I drew 4 pages in total and I'm still not sure I made it right, but I start to think about that, and most of the tasks inside Drawbox are meant to be overwhelming first. I think that's fine. Yeah, we're now at organic intersections, which is basically a pile of sausages lying on top of each other. So you maybe have to indicate some weight and shadow through the thicker lines of the bottom parts, and you also add little signs of volume, and that's really it. This felt a lot of easier than the task before. Maybe it prepared me for this? I'm not really sure. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah, actually in the end of every chapter you get the chance to submit your complete homework from all the lessons before. There's a free option where you can upload this stuff to Imgur, so I did, and other students there got the chance to critique your stuff, but actually when I looked up, there was like never a commentary. You can get feedback from the teachers, but then you have to join the Patreon and it will cost something. So yeah, I tried. Now it was time for a break. After staking for weeks with this program, I just wanted to have my iPad back and draw whatever I want. So I drew a bunch of portraits and yeah, I'm quite happy with the result. This was well, I took a whole week off. Then we arrive a new chapter. We're applying the construction finally to plants and mushrooms. Yeah, maybe you remember the organic arrows exercise. Now we are directly repeating it because the next thing is leaves. And it's, yeah, kind of similar to how to draw the sausage. You begin with the flow line and later there comes the outer part. And you're just slowly blocking out the features before you move on to the edge here or details like the texture. It follows a branches exercise, which is also very similar to the sausage dissection part. Drawbox is now leading you through a lot of examples for plants and mushrooms, but for the sake of the video, I'm just showing what I came up with. It was really cool to get the tools first, even if it was kind of abstract at the beginning. But now I got everything to apply this to more complex forms, and I had much fun doing it. I don't know if I'm improving seriously, but especially the last one here is quite cool, I think. Yeah, thanks for watching and see you on the next chapter. Bye bye.